Hi, Flosstube. It's Arlene. It's Friday afternoon, March 8th, and I really wanted to come and check in with all of you. It's International Women's Day today. I don't know if you saw, but you should see the Google Doodle that's out there today, although by the time this video uploads, you might not be seeing it on March 8th, but I know you can Google Doodle of March 8th or International Women's Day. It's a wonderful one, just representing women around the world, and some wonderful quotes. So go check it out. I became very in tune to the Google Doodles. It was like a few years ago when there was something that was put out there how Google was making an effort to not just feature dead white men from Western cultures, and that they were making an extra effort to represent other cultures and not just dead white men. And ever since then, I've really paid attention. Tried to make sure at least at some point every day that I'm on Google's homepage just to see if there's a Google Doodle, and I've just learned new things from that, and I encourage the learning of new things in the most random ways, and if that comes from a Google Doodle, so be it. I've taught that to students, and I love it when they come in and say, "Did you see the Google Doodle today?" And it often has spurred some great conversations. It doesn't matter if it's math class or not, great conversations about the here and now. Anyway, check that out for today. I have wanted to sit and get a video out there. If you follow me on Instagram, you might be aware that a couple weeks ago I went on an amazing trip. I didn't share about this at all in my last video that I was doing this, but this video is going to be an awful lot about that trip. And I'd wanted to do a video soon after coming back, but then last weekend I ended up needing to go away for a brief getaway. And things got a little derailed the last couple of weeks. For those of you who've been with me a while, you may be aware I don't share a whole lot of personal side of life. Every Flosstuber is different. Everyone shares the different pieces in the ways they're comfortable with. But it is an important piece, and it has come up a lot. This past summer, both of my parents passed away. And dealing with all aspects of that has been huge. And I will just share that on a very practical level, in the last few months, my sisters and I have been cleaning out the home where my parents lived for 37 years, the home where I grew up. There's a lot of stuff and a lot of childhood memories, and a lot of decisions to be made, and the house was put on the market, and that's a whole nother level of loss to work through. And my trip last weekend involved going up to Connecticut related to the house things, and this is just a lot of pieces that happen all in a short period of time. It's basically been just 6 months since my dad passed away, and just about 8 months since my mom. So there's a lot going on. I have also shared that my parents have a dog that my sisters and I have kind of been rotating joint custody. She's with me here right now. She came back with me when I was up there last weekend, and it's been a rough week for her. So we've been struggling together. What can I say? She's eating fine and doing her business outside fine, but just about every morning this week I've been waking up and she's been having some bad nights, and I've been cleaning up after it. And I wish I knew what was going on with her, because she's mostly been okay during the day. She's 14, she'll be 15 in May. She's an older dog, and there's another loss coming down the pipeline. So just know that those are all the background pieces to everything. I think all Flosstubers, whether they share the personal side or not, not just, I shouldn't say all Flosstubers, everyone has multiple parts of their life. And what is shared openly and what isn't, I'm only skimming the surface here right now. But care about one another is really important, and sending out all those good vibes is really important. I try to do my little part in the world, and I am always very appreciative when it comes back at me. Let me move on. So, I went on an amazing, what I was referring to as a California adventure. And actually, though, before I start talking about the trip, let me give you the briefest stitching update, and let me actually say a huge thank you to Ingeborg. Stitch Too Far. If you don't watch her Flosstube, you should. And I should have a pencil things. I should be making notes, so I will link Ingeborg below. I watched her video just a couple of nights ago, but I want to say she posted it probably, I can't even think, probably last weekend, because I think she's a weekend poster. She was on a trip to Italy. I want to say probably the same time I was on my trip, because I think I was seeing her Instagram posts of Italy at the same time I was posting from California. And she posted, when I was watching her video, she started out saying, I got a little bit of stitching to show you, but the rest of this video is going to be about my trip. And I so appreciated, Ingeborg, hearing about your trip. I really did. And I could, in reading through the comments, so many other people did too. So I'm going to kind of hope the same thing as I have a video that's going to be very similar to Ingeborg's. A little bit of stitching and then walking you through my trip. So when I was last here, I think I was sharing with you about an embroidery project that I picked up from this book, Freestyle Embroidered Mandalas, from Hazel Blomkamp and Divan Nykirk. I know I'm butchering that. These are just photocopies because it's easier to see it. I'm basically doing this project in my own colorway, and it's got all variety of stitches. You could go back to my last video to hear my whole sort of review of the book. This is where I took it out of the hoop. This is how far I am with it. There's a third color that's going to come in. So you see the blue and the brown. You may or may not be able to see that I've got some gold going on. And there's just the hint of the beginning of a violet that I'm bringing in right there. So plenty more to go. This was basically a stopping point. I got it to before my trip, and it was the right stopping point. And didn't take it with, it wasn't the thing to take on my trip with me. It's not what I'm working on right now, but I just wanted to share with you. It was exactly what I needed. Gary from Fiber Talk says, he's not the only one, but the idea of a palette cleanser. I had started this because I just needed a break from what I'd been working on before. I just needed something different. And this was definitely something different, and it will be something to come right back to when I need something different. Fiber Talk. If you don't listen or subscribe or don't know what I'm talking about, let me just briefly say again, because I've shared this before. Fiber Talk is a podcast. Gary interviews, posts interviews on Sundays with designers and shop owners and people of the fiber arts world. And it's not just limited to cross stitch, although he has a lot of cross-stitch feature things. One of the reasons is very much in my mind right now. He was at the Nashville Needlework Market, and I know within Flosstube world, with the vast majority of Flosstubers being focused on cross-stitch, the Nashville Needlework Market is an exciting event. And what Gary has done for us, I mean, what a service he has done. By him being there, he did videos with a whole bunch of designers. Easily 20, I should have counted. I don't have the number off the top of my head exactly. His website, the website to see the video, well, there's two places to see the videos. WeTalkFiber.com. He also posts them through YouTube on a Flosstube channel, so Fiber Talk on YouTube. If you are just listening to the regular podcasts, you know, the ones that don't involve videos from Nashville, you can go to any podcast player, however you might listen to podcasts on whatever device, and get it through that. But in terms of seeing videos from Nashville in particular, on the website or through YouTube. I am one of his regular weekly, the weekday chat people. So about once a month, I am one of the people who gets to chat with Gary about whatever topics come up. And one of those posted actually while I was on my trip. We'd recorded it the week before, and another one of those will be coming up in a couple of weeks. So you can tune into those if you are so interested. Why'd I get off on that topic? Because the idea of palette cleanser. Okay. I took with me on the trip and then have been stitching on since the project that I'd shared with you before. So this is a design that I have called Gossamer Lace in Cross Stitch. This is me, Works by ABC. You can purchase this pattern on my Etsy store, Works by ABC. It is also available through Hoffman, which means it's available to your local needlework stores. I did the whole blackwork version of it. I am doing just like, I want to do a couple of models of parts of this design to show what parts can look like of a design, that you don't have to do a whole design. And that's so useful to think about when it comes to particularly a lot of large designs, an ink circles or a long dog sampler. So many of those where it might be reasonable to say, gosh, I love that aspect. Well, just stitch that aspect. So I'm trying to get this finished up. This where I am right here. This, I just need to get around here. Here we go. Why am I not like feeling centered? It's just gonna look off kilter, I guess. So this ring, once I'm done with it, is what I want to do, and I'm going to finish it like a hoop finish because it'll be a circle. Because I just think it makes a nice design on its own. I'm doing this on 28 count 1/1 because I'm just doing it small, using Classic Colorworks Blue Moon, and it is on. Oh my gosh, I get this wrong every. Stormy? No, snowy. Smoky. Smoky. It's down there. Smoky white. It's a printed, which is not really showing up very well. So it looks variegated, but it's a printed fabric from Zweigart. I realized, for those of you who know Michelle Bendy, Bendy Stitchy, and who doesn't, this weekend is her birthday. Happy birthday, Michelle, on Sunday. And so she's doing a birthday stitch along. Now, I'm one of the first to admit that there's so many times that I feel like, you know, I don't belong in the cross stitch community, from the sense of I see so many floss tubes where so many people are involved in, or have so many different projects going on, or they're involved in so many different SALs, stitch alongs, or this reading and magical stitches, and how they're able to pull out projects for all the homework assignments. And I think, gosh, I just don't do it that way. And I was taking great comfort watching Jessie from Jessie Marie Does Stuff not that long ago, and in a totally different context, she was making a comment of, I stitch the way I stitch, and this is what works for me. And she was referring to a video tutorial that she had done, and she said, I put it out there. I didn't know if it would help anybody. It turned out it did. But she was saying, this is what works for me. And I'm just thinking, I have to keep reminding myself, this is what works for me. But what it means is that sometimes I feel like I'm not part of the crowd when I can't participate, when I so badly want to be a part of the community. And I know, I'm part of the community. We are all part of the community. If you're watching this, you're part of the community. When you leave a comment, you're part of the community. If you make videos, you're part of the community. But I realized, by sheer dumb luck, I can participate in Michelle's Bendy Stitchy's birthday sal with like zero effort involved. So for her birthday sal today, Friday, you're supposed to work on a project that involves a bee in some way. What's the name of this thread? Blue Moon. tomorrow, the 9th, you're supposed to stitch on a project that involves an S, BS, in some way. What am I stitching on? Smoky white. And then for Sunday, her actual birthday, the 10th, you're supposed to stitch on, I got to come up with a little bit of a story, as we're going to say, Jessify it. This is for Jessie Marie. But stitch on a project that you either that Michelle's inspired you to get, or is stitchy kindness, or is just BS, or she had a funny way of the way she wrote it out. And I can say Michelle, along with a number of others, but Michelle's been so supportive of me ever since I started Works by ABC. I'm working on a Works by ABC pattern that my friend Michelle has been supporting me every step of the way. So there you go. By the sheer project that I'm working on right now, I can participate in Michelle's birthday sal. And it makes me feel like I'm part of the crowd. Okay, so I want to just get this done. I only stitched minimally on the trip, a little bit, but not minimally. The last couple weeks have been a little rough. I just haven't stitched as much as I wanted to. I just would like to get this done. I have some other things in the queue. Not really things I'm going to talk about too much. A few things involved with some projects that I'm working on with McKenna, because coming up in is it just 4 weeks? 4 weeks is Stitch Nanigans, McKenna's retreat in Arizona, and I have some things in the works related to that, so you'll hear about those eventually. Let me talk about my California adventure here. When I typically do a video, I try to leave I leave my lace pieces for last, for those who might not be interested in the lace side of me. But because lace was a part of this trip, it's all integrated. I need to just go in chronological order here. So just know that that's what I'm doing to talk about this trip. A few months back, I was really feeling the need to plan something to look forward to. And yes, the retreats that are coming up, I'm very much looking forward to, but something a little different. I was very fortunate to make the logistics of this work in my life, that I could take the time to go away as I did. And how it all focused in on California comes about like this. I had this idea that going to San Francisco would be a fun place to go, not so much the city of San Francisco, but knowing that I had some stitchy friends there, knowing that if I asked, McKenna would likely join us, which she did without me even finishing the question. Yes, I'll do it. But also knowing that in the San Francisco area, there are 2 lace-related places to visit. And then, in terms of timing, I was aware of a lace conference, a weekend that goes on over President's Day weekend every year. At some point, I got signed up on their mailing list or something. Like, I was just aware of it, not that I'd ever, before this year, ever considered attending it. I've mentioned to you all before, IOLI, International Organization of Lace, Inc., but it's really basically the North American, U.S. and Canadian, but mostly U.S. organization, does a yearly, what's called convention, a 1-week-long convention. And for those of you who've been with me a while, may remember, not this past summer, but the summer before, 2017, that convention was in the Philadelphia area, and it was wonderful and amazing, and I shared a lot about it in a video. I did not go to Lace Convention this past summer. It was in Houston, Texas. I'm pretty sure it was Houston. It is not in the cards for me to go to convention this summer. We'll see for the future. So in addition to that 1-week-long yearly convention, there are what I'm going to say 2 smaller but yet large gatherings of lace makers that happen, one on more or less the East Coast and one on the West Coast. Now, there's other times where lace makers will get together and have classes and stuff, but I think these are the 2 other large ones. There's one that happens in Ithaca, New York, over the Columbus Day weekend in October. I was able to go to that once. I made that work once in my life in 2016, and it was great. I enjoyed it. I mean, it's a drivable thing for me, for where I live. And, you know, it's always in the back of my mind, if I can make that logistically work, maybe I would go again. And the other one is this one that it's referred to as winter lace that happens President's Day weekend. Now, I admit, when it's not something you've ever really considered and all you know is it happens in California, I had just assumed that, well, there's those two lace places, which I'll get to in a minute, in the San Francisco area. It must happen in the San Francisco area. Well, then I actually, you know, looked it up, went to the website, and realized I was totally wrong. It was not in the San Francisco area. It was in the LA area. And I had this, like, night where I was like, oh, should I just throw out this whole idea? And I had to talk myself, no, I should not throw out this idea. I should instead expand this idea. If I'm going to do this trip, why not do it right and do it completely? And if I'm going to fly all the way to the West Coast, I'm in New Jersey, if I'm going to fly all the way to the West Coast, why not? So I flew to LA and was there for a few days, and then I flew up to San Francisco and I was there for a few days. And the two parts of the trip were just both wonderful. So I had my lace aspect of this and some other pieces of it. And I had the opportunity to be with friends, and all throughout there was needlework pieces, and it was just wonderful. So I want to take you through my days. I also, I just realized I brought something up here and I don't know what I did with it. Okay, so I flew out on a Friday, was flying to the LA area. The lace conference was in Orange County. Yes. So not like downtown LA or anything like that. I have, what did I do with that? All right, I just got to keep focused here. I have a bunch of stuff that's going to be a part of show and tell for all of us. So first of all, this was one of two bags Diana, it is Kismet, made for me. That, sure, they're project envelope bags for stitching, but I used it for lace-related items. I have a whole bag of stuff sitting right next to me here. And the fabric that she found was just, she had wanted to make me some bags, and she asked me, and I said, what are the chances of you finding some fabric that looks like lace? And she hit it out of the ballpark there. So I purposely brought some materials for what I was doing in this, and you bet this kind of bag got lots of compliments from the lace makers. There were about 75 lace makers at this conference. What I loved about this is that you could sign up for classes for Friday. The main class days were Saturday and Sunday, but you could also add on a class day on Monday. So for the people who wanted to do a 4-day weekend out of it, you could do it. But for the people who were just wanting 2 days of classes, that was great. I really liked that flexibility that a long weekend lace event like this has. But the reason I pulled this out is because this is, so I was taking a winter lace conference program. That's what it was. I was taking a class in Milanese lace, which I had not done any of before, but it's a type of lace that I've been interested in. I want to say I've even shown you guys a book or two that I bought because I buy books and I haven't ever done them. These were the options that the teacher had sent. That is to say, here's some ideas, but some of her students were people who have taken classes with her before, and so they're doing more advanced things. But many of the people in the class were doing one of these. And actually, only this, and this are Milanese lace. These two are another type called Hungarian lace. They are both what are called tape laces, so they don't use that many bobbins. But there's a lot more detail. I never know to what extent of details I should go into when it comes to lace. Anyway, when I wrote back to her, I said, you know, I have lots of lace experience, but I've never done Milanese before. She had said, this is her suggestion of a first-time Milanese person, and I was fine with planning to do this. What I loved about this pattern is that it was something that I pretty much could finish in doing it in working on it for 2 days. Why can't I find, Okay, what I brought up, well, I could just use the back. So I was able to finish this piece of lace in just about the 2 days of classes. Can you see that? It has beads in it, in the center part. Can you see the beads there? And I love the way Louise, this teacher, has done a lot of work with bringing in color to lace. So one of my purchases at the conference was one of the books, like a self-published book that she has done. I can see myself perhaps doing some of her other patterns, a heart. Here, I like this sort of knot looking thing. It's a good practice for the fillings, the what goes inside there is pretty cool. So it was perfectly right. I loved it. I just took the 2 days. It was the right length of time for me. I so enjoyed seeing some lace makers that I've met before at conventions. I'm always pleased when people remember me. I don't know if you all have experienced this, where you meet or know or recognize people from some other event and you just don't know if they're going to remember you, but it happens, and it's just wonderful. I also had the wonderful experience of meeting Colette Kingsley, who goes by Colette Stitcher on Instagram. Within our Flosstube world, I knew that she was one of the other lace makers out there, that for whenever I first started seeing her post some lace things, and then I saw that she was going to be at the conference. That was just a really neat connection to be made. So Colette, I'm assuming you're watching right now. I'm looking forward to seeing you again in just a few weeks at Stitchinanigans, and it's just wonderful when we can make these in-person moments happen with the Flosstubers that we interact with through our screens. When it happens like this is wonderful. What else did I purchase there? I purchased this book. Maybe only lace makers would be interested. Where's the book? See, they were in a good order. Well, there's one other book I purchased. And it goes with, here it is. There was an exhibit, sort of the short version. There was an exhibit of all different, they look like lamps. What they actually are wine glasses with tea lights inside. And the lace is attached to like a vellum tracing paper kind of thing, so the light shows through. And I've seen pictures online of them all. They were all lined up like on shelves, and it was just an amazing exhibit display. And they put together a book of the patterns. And so I loved the idea. I hope that I will follow through with my vision of trying to make a couple of these. And again, it's just such a great idea. It's like a small size lamp, but it's not. It's a wine glass and a tea light. And some of them are very cool. Some of them are not as interesting as others, but I decided I wanted to buy that book. Oh, and I bought some gold thread. I thought, I certainly have the white thread if I want to do this in white, as they all are here, but I thought it'd be interesting to do it in white. The other thing on the Sunday night is the banquet of this event. Here's the gold thread. There's some other stuff in here. There was someone who made favors. There was a little baggie of M&Ms in this. This is lace. Made 75 of these, probably more because there were like spouses and stuff. But there were one of these at every place. And she does this every year. She makes something of lace. And that, what an amazingness. And there were some goodies given to us. There was a bobbin holder, beautiful wood makers, wood carvers, wood people make beautiful wood things to go with lace makers. bobbins and all kinds of, so this is a bobbin holder. It's got the tag attached, but you do this and you could put your bobbins in here. And then something that I learned I was taught a long time ago, and I've really tried to follow through with it, is that when you go to a lace event of any kind, a class, a day, a special day, but especially a class, a weekend, a week, you should always have a commemorative bobbin of some kind to remember that time from. So most of the time when there's an event like this, it is offered to you to purchase a commemorative bobbin. And of course, you don't have to, but I will, especially the woman, my first lace, it wasn't actually my first, it was my second lace teacher who kind of taught me this. I take advantage of it and I need to do it. So this was the commemorative bobbin. And it says Winter Lace Conference and the dates. And it's a beautiful hand painted. I actually never use my commemorative bobbins. Plenty of people do. There are plenty of lace makers where you look at their pillows and they're just filled with a variety of bobbins because they're sort of slightly different. And, they have all kinds of like memories attached to them. I mean, it's a way to collect your memories of where you've been and what you've done in the lace world. But you could be doing that with your stitching. I bought this thread when I was visiting this person, and I bought this thread from that amazing shop, and I got this thread at that garage sale where I bought all this stuff. And it's a great way to have your memories in a different way. So then the other thing about the lace conference, and I think the last thing to say about that is certainly the big the once a year convention, but also these smaller events, raffles are a big thing. People donate stuff, certainly if there's a lace maker who's passed away, but also people will clean out or they will just donate things. We're talking bobbins, books, lace related items, all kinds of stuff, depending on, I'm not someone who, like, for example, collects bobbins, but there were some beautiful bobbins, like collector bobbins. There are plenty of lace makers who are knitters, so there was some beautiful yarn. There was all kinds of stuff. The raffle this year, this conference, I loved this. The money was going directly to a fund that was basically contributing to make they had a beginner class, like for beginners, and basically making that a pretty small charge. Like it wasn't the cost of the regular weekend for the beginners, which is the way you gotta get beginners, is not to make it an expensive, endeavor. So all the money raised through the raffle was basically what they were calling scholarships for beginner lace makers. Love that. So I decided $20, 20 raffle tickets. I'll see what I get out of it. And I'm pretty picky. I'll only put the raffle tickets in the things that I want. I kind of scoped it out. I decided there were basically 5 things that I had any interest in. And we're talking, there were probably easily 70 items. I'm pretty sure the numbers went into the 70s. And there really were only 5 things that I was at all interested in. So I took my tickets and I didn't, put 4 in each. There was a little bit of, making decisions. And the raffle gods were with me, people, because of the 5 items, I won 4 of them. Yeah, the raffle gods are with me. So I need to show you. Of, the whole make your decisions about where you put your raffle tickets. Like, this was something that clearly was not very popular, but was interest to me. It was a selection. These are like newsletter. I wouldn't even call them magazines, but they're old. They're old. But as I flipped through them, there were definitely a few things that interested me. And I saw in the baggie that they're literally, and I waited to put my tickets in until pretty much about the last point that you could. There were literally only a couple tickets in here. So I put 2 tickets in and thought, okay, well, I got a 50% chance of that. And, I haven't even taken the time to go through them completely. But there's, for the time I do spend with them, well worth it. So that was one item. The others, I would not, there were definitely plenty of raffle tickets in all of them. So this was 3 things, okay? 3 things, I couldn't tell you how many. All right, so this is a little mini Otlite, one of these small kinds that when you open it like this, whoa, You know this kind? Really? Yeah. Yeah. A magnifier. It could clip on the edge, or it could actually stand on a desk. You just got to do a little balancing act. But this is like a long-handled magnifier. And this was donated by the Lace Museum, which is one of those places in San Francisco. So hold on, I'll be talking about them in a minute. This, there we go. I mean, to you, you're like, well, what is it? It's a piece of cloth, and it's got a nice little printed design on it. Most lace makers would refer to this as a cover cloth, because whenever you leave your lace pillow and you have lace on it, you always cover your work. And I use, you know, little fabric squares, or actually most of the ones I use are like cloth napkins that I've bought just to be cover cloths. Well, here's a cover cloth with a nice little lace design on it, which is very cool. So those three items were bundled together. That was my second thing. My third thing, and I know this is not going to look impressive, especially as it is right now in sort of an old binder, and I do need to replace the binder. But there were a lot of tickets in this baggie, but you had to know what you were looking at. This is a binder. I don't know how to show it well. This is a binder that belonged to a lace teacher out in California, and it's all the patterns and prickings that she used, her instructions, what she would give in some form. I mean, again, I haven't even spent the time to completely go through it, but, you know, sort of like her teaching binder, something she would use and when she was teaching. Is some reference, some patterns have been pricked, some have not. I think this is like a treasure to have something like this. I think there are patterns to be gotten from this. I haven't really spent any time with it at all, but I'm looking forward to seeing what I can get from it. And, I'm glad that it's in my hands, and I'm looking forward to getting some good things from it. And then the fourth thing, which is actually what I'm pulling from, and I think it's the one I put the most tickets in, is a bag. I mean, this is a nice bag. My only criticism of the bag is I wish it was a zip at the top. But a bag that also came from the Lace Museum. So this was a convenient bag to win because I liked it, but it also was a convenient bag to keep things in. So like I said, the raffle gods were with me that night. I was very pleased. So I even though classes, you can stay and continue on classes on Monday, I knew that the 2 days were going to be what I wanted from it. And I was staying in the LA area Monday and Tuesday for a few other things. On Monday, I had picked up a rental car and then drove up to Santa Monica, spent some time there, walked on the beach for a little bit. That evening, saw an old dear friend, and there is something to be said about seeing old dear friends. She was someone who was a teaching colleague of mine. She retired a number of years ago, and her husband moved out to California where their kids are. And I'd seen her a few times over the years since then, but it was just so wonderful to catch up with her. Tuesday, I went to the Getty Museum. If you don't know, how do you describe this place? Last time I was in the LA area was 12 years ago. My sister was living there at the time, and I had gone to the Getty then, and I knew that it was a place I wanted to go back to. Right now, I am always where I am right now in my life, looking for inspiration for pattern designing. And so much of this trip, I have a whole list of things. There's actually a couple things from this trip that I'm not going to be showing you in this video because you might be seeing them in future videos when they've become inspiration for patterns. So stay tuned for that. But I knew the Getty was a place that I could easily spend a long time, a full day, and just enjoy it. It's just a wonderful museum. It's like up on a hilltop. It's a beautiful setting. It's both indoors and outdoors. What can I say? Go look it up. I just got to share with you, I did make some purchases in the gift shop. They gave me a bag. The Getty Center, sorry, I'm saying it incorrectly, not the Getty Museum, the Getty Center. But there's actually two parts to it. The Getty Center is the one that's built high up on the hilltop. There's also what's called the Getty Villa, which is some few miles away. And this was the side, I mean, clearly it's a bag that's used at both places. And I was making a joke that even though this is totally the wrong culture, she kind of looks like a Frida Kahlo like ancestor. I mean, the Getty Villa is known for Greek and Roman stuff, but there's something about her that just made me want to keep the bag for that alone. I was posting some things. What else is in here? Okay. From the Getty. I posted some there's a number of pictures on Instagram. There was one particular painting that I loved that this doesn't do any justice. This is a magnet. I bought the magnet of it that I could have hanging. This doesn't do it justice. Even the postcard version didn't do it justice. But this is enough for me to remember, souvenir, the word, like the French word souvenir, if I'm saying this correctly, it's like its origin is something like to remember, and that's why I wanted to remember. The Getty is not most well known. It's well known for having spent a whole lot of money, like record-breaking money at the time, to purchase. Oh my God, I'm blanking. Is it Van Gogh irises? It's on my Instagram. And so, yes, of course, needed to make sure I went and saw that. But this, I just thought was stunning. And especially to know that the date of it is 1722. And I posted this and somebody responded, which I admit, I thought it myself. That would make an amazing cross stitch. Like Haid version of cross stitch. I mean, yeah, you'd have to do it like Haid-like to get the detail. So yeah, I thought about that. I mean, I could take my own picture and try putting it in my computer program. Will I do it? Will I stitch it? No. But it was just stunning to see. I did get 3 books that I'm calling them purchases from the Getty. I'll be honest, I didn't actually purchase them at the Getty. I had some Amazon gift card credit that I needed to spend, and I could see that I could get these use up. I believe in supporting museums. I do, but I also knew I needed to just use up some gift card credit. So when I found the gift shop there, it really had some amazing books. They have like their own publishing arm. But I was glad that I found some things that just intrigued me. It's been a while. So a lot of interesting color in my life. And this book just had all kinds of stuff related to color. It's called Fortune Telling Book of Colors. And it's just got different ways to interpret color. I don't know how else to describe it. There's no short version way of describing it. I mean, I think you could go on Amazon and read the description and understand it better. This, I haven't started reading it yet, but I'm looking forward to. It's called The Secret Lives of Color. And I was in the gift shop standing there reading pieces of it for a while. It goes through different colors. And like if I just open up randomly, fuchsia. Fuchsia is one of the many colors we owe their name to a flower. And although fuchsia is just, it goes through like a whole history of fuchsia. Next page, shocking pink. Goes through a whole thing about shocking pink. Like, I just think this is fascinating. I think you could see some of the titles of the color names if I do this kind of flipping. Like this is a reading book to me, but it's also like a reference book. So especially because of the pattern that I designed and I work on every so often called the Color Thesaurus, this kind of thing fascinates me. And it makes me wonder if I had this book or knew of this book, would I have chosen different names or, will I redo? So I don't know, but this is on the reading list. It's just not your typical reading book. And then this is fascinating. Looking at Textiles, A Guide to Technical Terms. So if you are like me, when you go into museums, if you are a stitcher, you are interested to know what kind of stitching they might have. And sure, if they have like embroideries or samplers, awesome, great. But if you go to like a large, well-known museum, they may or may not have that, but they might have something called textiles. And, you get to see the tapestries or the whatevers. And in the general world of museum field, how does it all break down? What is what? There are some fascinating descriptions in this, and I just loved this. I loved what I was picking up even from reading the first few pages, and I could just tell. Not to mention, I recognized that this was a piece of lace from the Metropolitan Museum of Art, and then when I read it, I was like, "Yep, no, from the Cooper Hewitt." I was like, "Yes, got it," and so I just decided I wanted to get this too. So I'm calling these 3 books from the Getty. Oh my gosh, I still haven't gotten very far. So that was Tuesday, the trip. Wednesday, early morning, got on the plane and flew up to San Francisco. And McKenna, Stitching and Sequins, she was flying in from Phoenix, and our planes, although it was not the original intention, I had a bit of a flight issue, but it all worked out in the end. Our planes literally landed like at the same time because we both had turned on our phones and basically wrote, just landed in effect at the same time, which was pretty cool. The friends that I have made through Flosstube, through this stitching community, I never would have predicted this in my life. I never would have imagined doing something like this. I have traveled solo before. I could have pictured myself going to San Francisco or the San Francisco area, I should say, and going to this place and maybe having lunch with this person or that person. But to really picture being with people in the way that I was, with the stitching people it was just wonderful. So that first day when we met up on Wednesday, where we were headed first was one of the 2. I mentioned that there were 2 lace-related things in San Francisco. Then I basically said to McKenna in the planning of this, okay, there's 2 things we're going to have to do. You tell me what else is on your to-do list, but these are the 2 things that I want to do. One of them is going to the Lace Museum. So the place that donated these, as well as a number of other things, where it says the Lace Museum, is in Sunnyvale, California, which is south of San Francisco, actually near San Jose. I think I'm saying that correctly. Yes, near San Jose. And what made sense is that we went down there to that area first on the first day and actually spent the night down in that area. So we went to the Lace Museum. I was surprised. It was like in a strip mall. It wasn't what I thought it was going to be. Their website isn't very detailed, so it was hard to know what we were going to get into. I loved being there with her. I loved seeing what they had a display out. They had like drawers where you could pull out and see what was there. I loved seeing what I could see and also just sharing with her what I was seeing. They had a whole area of stuff that was for sale, so we were enjoying ourselves looking at all of that. I mean, it was just fun being there. Just, again, being surrounded by such beautiful things. And I don't want to speak for McKenna, but I hope she could say that, I think any of us who love stitching can appreciate anything that's handmade, like this kind of stuff. And I think she enjoyed her time there too. As I said, the idea of bobbins, the idea, I don't think I thought about it ahead of time, but in the moment, I realized, wait a second, because I think I had seen them being sold, not at the Winter Lace Conference, but elsewhere. I asked the woman who was there, do you have bobbins at, say, the Lace Museum? And it took a little bit, but we did find them. And so I was able to purchase, there we go, a souvenir bobbin. So I can say that this is my souvenir from having been to the Lace Museum, which was just such a wonderful experience. And there was something else purchased there that you might hear about or see in a future video. And that's all I'm going to say about that. We'd gotten off kilter from our day because of the flight and the car things. And what we were going to do in the afternoon, we ended up saving till the next day. We stayed at a wonderful hotel in that area. If you have to be in San Jose, might I suggest the Bristol Hotel. It was just a great place. The next day, we went to the Winchester House, otherwise known as the Winchester Mystery House. I purchased this book. If this looks familiar, there is a cross-stitch pattern of the house. And I'm blanking on the name of the person who, I want to say it's Debbie Patrick, but I might not have that correct, who designed the outside of the house, someone who does like all the house designs. I read about this place, and it just seemed like a cool place to go. McKenna had been there before, but she was all for going again. It really neat. The short version, Winchester, as in the gunmaker. That's the money of the family. When the woman's name was Julia Winchester, her husband had died. She had all this money. She believed in the spirits, and the spirits told her, go west and build a giant house and never stop building. And so she did. So she went west and started building a house and basically never stopped building. This is like an aerial view. And, you know, driving my like need for symmetry crazy, because like we're taking the tour and you couldn't even keep track. Wait, where are we in relation to, you know, the front, or relation to where we start? Just there's stairs all over the place. There's doorways all over the place. There's things that don't make sense. This is like the back of it has like the more head on or straight on view. I mean, there's no symmetry to it at all. Before the trip, just a couple weeks before, was curious to start reading a little bit more about the background. And I had gone to like my library websites, or my library, you know, catalogs online, and they didn't really have any books about her. Or there was one book that was showing up as a historical fiction book. And I wasn't crazy about it because there wasn't even a physical book. It was a ebook, which to each his own. I know there's some Kindle lovers and tablet lover people who love reading on their Kindle/tablets. I am just not one of them. It just doesn't work for me. And so it kills me when there's something that I want from the library and the only option is the ebook. I mean, it doesn't kill me. It's like, okay. And this is one of the few times that I've been trying to actually read a reading book. I'm just trying to slog through it at this point, but I did realize because it's showing up on the ebook as like almost 400 pages, and it takes her until about page 300 for her to get to California. So there's a lot about her life before then, which is in Connecticut. And you know, when you say historical fiction, it just seems like a whole lot of fiction, because the way this story, and it's called I had it out, I had it open. I want to say The Secret Life of The Possession of Sarah Winchester. There we go. The Possession of Sarah Winchester. I'm not recommending this book. Maybe it's making a lot of assumptions about those spirits of hers being a part of her life for her entire life. And there's a side of me, it's like, I get it, it's historical fiction, but there seems to be an awful lot of fiction here. And just the other night, I was like, I want a biography. Why is there no biography? Well, I went on Amazon and realized there is a biography. There's only one, and it was only written about 5 years ago. And I won't buy it. I will put in a request for interlibrary loan so my library can get it from another library, because I am curious to know more of the facts. Because at least the reviews that were on Amazon of that biography, certainly, as you would expect, you go to a tourist attraction, they're going to ramp up any stories. And certainly this book that I'm reading now, yeah, there's a lot of craziness that's written about. But I wanted to learn a little bit more. I am so rambly. I hope you're staying with me here. I'm going to keep going. So we saw the Winchester House, and then we started to drive northward up toward the Oakland/Berkeley area, which is really where we were making our home base, not so much in the city of San Francisco, but the Oakland-Berkeley area for the next few days. And the first person we met up with was Olivia B. If you watched her Flosstube, the Winchester House is where Olivia B. and Elena B. did their Christmas cards this year. So meeting Olivia didn't feel like meeting Olivia. I mean, it didn't feel like we were meeting in person for the first time. It felt like, I mean, that's what's just so wonderful about this. It was like saying hello to a friend. So Olivia was our guide for the rest of that day. We went to Berkeley. We went to this amazing place called Creative Reuse. If you watch McKenna's video, she showed off some of the stuff she bought there. My exciting purchase there, if you are familiar with Piecework magazine, these are old issues of Piecework that I got for 50 cents each. And again, I haven't even spent the time going through them. There is lots of good stuff in them. I know. I have some old copies. I've assorted random issues of Piecework. Truthfully, I'll be honest, the older issues are way better than what Piecework is doing currently. My opinion. So when you can find the old issues, they're usually pretty good. And doing this video now is making me want to like put everything aside for the next week of my life and just sit and read through all the fun stuff. But I haven't gotten there. Okay. We went to some bookstores because that is clearly something Olivia and I have in common. She has talked about some used book sales and stuff. We're at one store and again, these connections of friendships. We're, of course we head toward the hobbies, crafts, whatever that store was called. We're all, the three of us are all looking at, it's McKenna, Olivia, and myself, we're all looking at shelves and I forget how McKenna said it. Do you love me? Do you love me? Well, you're really going to love me now. Something like that. She finds this book. Now, I've never seen this book. I've never heard of this book. I'm not going to claim that I'm an expert and I've seen and heard everything. Please know this. But I'll have to say that the chances of finding any lace books in any used bookstore, they're sort of like more typical ones to be found. This is so neat. I mean, this is, yeah, I had to get this. Yeah. What else did we do that day? Spend time walking around. And then, So then, needing to make sure I hit the second lace-related thing in the San Francisco area was in Berkeley, there is a store. So the Lace Museum is is a nonprofit, volunteer-run, basically based place that happens to sell some things like in a gift shop kind of way. But there's a store in Berkeley called Lacis, and that's how I know to pronounce it, Lacis. And that's how a lot of the lace makers at Winter Lace at the conference were pronouncing it, although I did hear a couple other people pronouncing it slightly differently. But anyway, Lacis is what I call it in Berkeley, and that is a store. And it sells all kinds of things. I mean, it's not just like for bobbin lace makers. It also sells like antique textiles and machine-made things like machine lace. And there were displays like there's a whole area that is like a display room, but that was actually closed off because they were between exhibits, but we could peek in and see how they were setting up the next one. There was a whole book area. I wish I could have found like my be all end all wishing. It was just wonderful to look through all the books. There was so much in that place. It's not that I felt like the need. I had to buy a whole lot of things because there wasn't things I needed to buy. I just needed to see it. I needed to be there. What did I purchase? I purchased, here's a card, and this is based on an engraving from 1874. And I purchased a set of postcards, and I think these postcards they put together, this is from one of the exhibits they had. Not recent by any means, but this was a lace exhibit they had on display. They put together these postcards. Maybe that last one probably wasn't part of it. It's just part of a magazine cover. But then they had this set of postcards. And then they didn't have a bobbin that said laces on it. But they did sell bobbin lace bobbins, and they had a pile of, they called them vintage random bobbins, and basically ones that weren't like old and really worth anything. So I just picked out one, and this style is called a Honiton bobbin, and it still had thread on it. $2, and I picked out one, and for me, this is my souvenir bobbin from Laces. It doesn't say Laces on it, but I will forever know that this bobbin came from Laces. So, then we were waiting there because Abby, Top Knot Stitcher, was coming back from work, and she was meeting us there. And you know, again, the connections are just amazing to me. So to see her again was just wonderful. We went out and had dinner together. Olivia dropped McKenna and I back off at the hotel where we were staying. Yes. Friday morning, where were we headed? Into San Francisco, into like the city part of San Francisco. What was our first stop? The Fillmore Bake Shop. What is so special about the Fillmore Bake Shop? That would be Elena B. So, Olivia B and Elena B. Elena B is Olivia's sister, owns a bake shop. And if you're on Instagram, you will see every so often when people go to San Francisco and they go to the bake shop, there's always a picture taken with Elena outside the shop. And again, you walk in, you see Elena, and it's not like I'm meeting a stranger. It's hugging somebody that I feel like I already know. And it was just wonderful. Just was wonderful. So we got to sit with Elena and have amazing pastries and coffee and tea and hot chocolate or whatever we were drinking. It was just so wonderful to be there with her, and to be like, just to know that we're experiencing this together. Just an amazing beginning of the day. From there, Abby was a bit of our, Olivia had taken off the day of work to be with us the previous day. Abby took off the day of work that day. I mean, this is just amazing. So Abby was our San Francisco guide. So she first brought us to the Haight-Ashbury area, where there's just cool and funky stores, and went in and out of them for a little bit, just enjoyed all kinds of stuff. You know, I'm trying to think. I didn't purchase anything down there. I think McKenna bought a few things. Just a fun area to be in. Then, I think if we did something in between. Yes. And then this was also on my we must do this McKenna list. We headed to the San Francisco School of Needlework and Design. And I told McKenna about this place, and I said, you know, I'd already checked in to confirm what I thought was true, that they had like a whole resource library, and anyone could come and just look through their books. It's a place that offers classes and offers events and has all kinds of stuff going on. And I wasn't feeling the need to, not that there was anything for us to go to class-wise or event-wise, I just wanted to go see what the place was all about. The two co-founders have been featured on Fiber Talk a good bit ago at this point, but I should particularly link that Fiber Talk. So if you're interested in the background of this place, there's a little element of it being modeled off of the Royal School of Needlework in England, modeled very loosely, I should say. But the kind of classes and the kinds of things that they're offering and they're teaching there, things like gold work and crewel work and needle painting, it's fascinating. And some of the events and the things that they're doing, like if I lived in the San Francisco area, I could see getting involved in some of the stuff there. Now, McKenna was all for, you know, she was like, sure, we could go there. And I was interested to see what books they had there. And I, you know, it wasn't that I was going to make McKenna sit there for hours with me. It was more like, I'll write down lots of names and titles, and, you know, this will be just a place for me to get some inspiration. And so I think McKenna had this vision of, you know, I'll look around and then I'll sit and play on my phone and figure out where else we'll go during the day. Well, what did McKenna end up doing? As we walked in, we realized, so sure, here's all like the books. There was a class going on. Lucy, one of the founders, was there teaching a goal work class. So there was amazing things laid out on the table. But this whole area here, this is the stuff we have for sale. This is our store area. So I go over to the books. McKenna goes over to the store area. And she starts finding incredible things. And when she calls me over to ask about one particular thing, I start to say, what else is there? She's like, no, go away. Go back to your books. So this book, she graciously allowed me, well, no, she actually said, Alina, you interested in this? Mosaic masterpieces in needlework and handicraft, based on motifs from the Holy Land. Like, this is the kind of thing that's right up my alley. Like, I'm not sure what I'll do with it, but for $2, I'll get some inspiration out of this in some way, shape, or form. In McKenna's videos, she joked about buying all the weeks that they had available. She didn't actually buy all the weeks. I got some of it first. Abby and I had picked out some before McKenna made the decision she was going to buy all the rest. So I'm just saying that. So I did pick out, they had some, I don't know how else to say it, random things. And how and why they acquired the random things and why they were selling them, who knows, but they just had some random things. So my purchases there were some thread and that one book, I think. World-class instruction in hand embroidery. This is there. And I have seen this brochure in other places. It's just really neat when you get the chance to actually go there and be there and see what it's like. You know, it's in basically an office building. It's in an office building. You go up an elevator. You're in a office building space, but you walk into this inspirational room. I mean, I could see, again, if I lived there, going there multiple times and using the books for resources in all kinds of ways. They are currently have a project going on. They are going to attempt to make the world's longest band sampler. I will link below the information that is on their website. They are trying to get stitchers of all types from all around the world to participate. And Lucy, the co-founder, showed us they've already started to get some pieces sent to them. So the idea is you stitch a piece that will then eventually get stitched together that'll be part of a band sampler. I just think it's a very cool idea. And I know they launched it back in the fall, because I remember hearing about this in various ways. And yeah, I think the easiest thing is, I think it's a great idea to participate in it. I will link information to it down below. Then, what else did we do? We walked around some more. Did we go? Where else did we go? Oh, Deso. We went to this place. There are only a few there. I think they're only on the East Coast, but then there are other places around the world. It's kind of like a Japanese dollar store. And we just had so much fun because the translations of some of the things just get hysterically funny. So everything costs $1.50. And it's so we were just having a little too much fun that the three of us, McKenna, Abby, and myself, all bought these. Be thrown into ecstasies, never better. Like, some of the items just had odd like the way things got translated was just too funny. Again, like a dollar store that you could find lots of household goods and lots of just like practical things. I don't know what I'm going to do with these, but I feel like I'm going to do something. Embroidery buttons that have holes on them that you could stitch through them. So can you see instructions? See how there's some stitching going on there? Like, I don't need to follow their instructions. The idea that there's holes through them. I don't know what I'm going to do with this, but I feel like I needed to get them to do something with them. And then these were like stickers, not stickers on their own, but like stickery thing, you know, lace designs. You know what I'm saying. I'm losing words here, people. because I'm also losing light, but you get the idea. Is that all I bought there? This pouch and these items that are in the pouch? I think so. Saturday in San Francisco? Yes, I think so. Saturday. What did we want to do on Saturday? Go to Needle in a Haystack. So Needle in a Haystack is the LNS that you will hear a lot of the Northern California stitchers talk about, is in Alameda, which is, again, in the San Francisco area for us East Coasters that are just picturing it as a big area. It's on to the east of San Francisco itself, near the Oakland-Berkeley area. We first met up for like a breakfast time, and joining that, so Olivia came, and there was Abby and Jen, Delicious Threads. So another person. These are Jen and Abby are people I met first at StitchCon, and again, it's a wonderful stitching community. It's like no time had passed. So we first had some breakfast, and then we made our way over to Needle in a Haystack, with the plan to just be sitting there and stitching and, purchasing or shopping around as needed. It's a great store with lots of threads, so that always intrigues me to see different things that I had never seen before. I've seen this kind of thread before, this painter's thread collection. These are threads where the color names are all named after famous artists. So like this is the Renoir color palette. This is a silk. I want to play with it. I'm not sure what I'm going to do with it. I've seen this more at like needlepoint stores. And Needle in a Haystack has some needlepoint stuff. Like their lines of threads really cover everything. So it was amazing. And then Kathy, the owner of Needle in a Haystack, started telling us about a place in Berkeley that she thought we should go to. And I'd been overlooking at threads or something, and I came back when she was in the middle of talking about it, and I said, well, wait, did you just say Tinsel Trading? Like the place in New York City? So she was referring to Tinsel Trading, which is now in Berkeley. Purveyors of fine trim and embellishments since 1933. Well, I knew of this place because I'd been there when it was in Manhattan. And I think there's enough people watching Flosstube that might be interested to know this story. So this is a little book called The Curious Shopper's Guide to New York City, Inside Manhattan's Shopping Districts. And the copyright date, well, it's a 2006, third printing 2007. I want to say I picked this up probably 2007, 2008, sometime around then. Wherever I picked it up, I was fascinated by this. And I know for a couple years, I'd gone into New York City a few times, like following the leads from this book. I mean, and then building off of what I could from the internet. But if you look at the table of contents, look at the categories, like the Lower East Side, undergarments. Yeah, there's a whole bunch of stores that just focus on undergarments. Drapery and upholstery fabrics, art supplies and stationery, antiques, collectibles and vintage stores, flea markets, fresh flowers, plants and floral supplies. Here we go. Buttons, trims, and notions, and fashion fabrics. These two right there. There was one trip into New York City where I just solely went more or less to all of, I don't know if I hit all, but many of the stores that were listed in there. And you know what's listed? Now I just took out my bookmark, but you know what's listed in here? Tinsel Trading. So I was familiar with this place, and it because it stands out, the story stands out. In 1933, Arch Berghoffen bought the French Tinsel Company where he had worked since World War I. He renamed it Tinsel Trading Company and proceeded to collect gold and silver metallic trimming for 5 decades. When he died in 1989, his granddaughter, Marcia Chepbo, adopted the business, cleaned things up a bit, and continued her grandfather's calling. The shop Previously dark and confusing is luminous and organized. A case of fabulous antique metallic trims is backlit by a photo of Russell Crowe wearing them in Master and Commander. Vintage buttons are on display in an old drawer unit, and an entire wall is devoted to artificial flowers. The store now uses some of its stock of old metallic threads to make items such as tassels and holiday ornaments. New trimmings, appliques, and ribbons are also sold, along with gifts and decorative seasonal items. Again, this is a book that was referenced. So I remember going to this place. And amusingly enough, there was a store literally called the store across the street. And it held only ribbons. It was his great-granddaughter, I don't know if this was Marcia's daughter or her niece, that ran the store across the street. And I think there was also one called the store next door. Like literally, that was the name of it, the store next door. There was so much stuff that this grandfather collected that they are still selling the stuff. Well, a few years ago, I don't quite know the date, they left New York City and they headed over to Berkeley. I'm sure there's a bigger story behind it, but they took everything and they're still selling the old things. I mean, it's all vintage old stuff. It's priced, it's not cheap stuff, but there's something very cool when you're buying things like that. The only things I purchased there was a couple of it was a silk thread. It's pretty fine. It's like sewing thread. This is old spools, pure silk. It was 50 cents. It cost me $4. So a couple of spools of silk thread, which I will do something with. That was Saturday. And then Sunday, it was time to get flying home. I mean, it literally, Ken and I had left the hotel room. I think we were aiming to leave the hotel room about 7:30 in the morning because of when my flight was. And I remember saying to her, if I'm lucky, I'll be walking in the door at home by 7:30 tonight. And it was just, and keep in mind, it's a 3-hour time difference. So it took about that long between getting to the airport, returning a rental car, blah, 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 and then on this end, getting back and getting my car and everything. It's just a long travel day when you go from West Coast to East Coast and you're doing it like that. I loved everything about this trip. It was what I needed. It was time spent with the things I love. It was time spent with people I love. And in that combination that is just so perfect. It was just everything. I'm glad that I have some things to look forward to now, like Arizona Stitch Shenanigans and other retreats that are coming up in the future. But this was a different kind of experience where it was being with a small group of people and in different combinations of people and in doing different things that I love. And I feel like I've spent so much of my life doing things that I love and not necessarily having people around me who get it, or that I almost have to kind of hide that I do these things, or that just knowing that people don't get it, that just is. But to know that I could be sharing even about the LA lace part of my trip and the people within Instagram world or the people I was then going to be with in the San Francisco time were so happy for me that I was enjoying that. To know that I have this pattern life, this always looking for inspiration, and that was going on throughout the trip, that I had a little running list of things that some of which I've already started working on, the projects that are the ideas that might turn into patterns that you might see in the future. So this is one of my longer videos. If you have stayed with me all the way through this, thank you so much. I hope you have found it interesting to hear about somebody else's vacation, but just the bigger picture is just to know that I could not have in any way pictured something like this 2 years ago or even 1 year ago, that friends found through Flosstube, and a life of, I've always had a stitching life. It's not that. But what the stitching life has turned to mean to me, um, how much it's helped me in this last bit of time, how much this trip has meant. So thank you for letting me share with all of you. So I think that's about it. I'm sure there are things I have probably forgotten, but I basically have a big mess around me and I need to start cleaning it up. So I think I'm going to end it here. Till next time. Thanks. Bye.